Over thousands of years, land and sea engaged in battle. For a time, land mostly won, creating this place we call South Louisiana. The land and one of the richest seafood estuaries on earth help to define us, our food, our music, America's unique place. It began with a raindrop. Countless raindrops, the annual spring floods that swelled North America's rivers. The father of those rivers spilled over its banks, belched little bits of sand and dirt from 31 states and 2 Canadian provinces, and assembled a great delta, until man sought to improve on nature. The Mississippi, locked in a straitjacket of levees, lost its land-building powers. Oil and gas companies dug thousands of canals to tap into the riches below, providing saltwater a network of highways to chew at freshwater marshes. Robbed of the river's nourishment, defenseless against the Gulf, Louisiana has lost an area the size of Delaware in less than a century.
I'd jump off of here, I'd swim about 200 yards, and I'd walk to the island, and it's not even there no more.
As a kid, Dean Blanchard remembers an island with 40-foot trees next to his shrimp processing plant in Grand Isle. Today, a NOAA study says the island ranks as one of the fastest sinking places on Earth.
And where you had land at, you got 5, 6, 7 foot of water. It just ate up like crazy.
Louisiana's coastal master plan provides a blueprint for reassembling parts of the coast. Not everyone shares the vision, and bitter fights now rage over limited dollars and how to fight the sea. A splash of fog hugs the ground at the first light of a new day on Louisiana's Chenier Plain, home to cattle ranching, crawfish farming, guarded by Holly Beach, where life is defined by the names.
Audrey, I think in '57 was the last one to destroy it. Then came Rita, and then came Ike.
Mike Bott owns one of the trailers that dot this beach town today, plowed under by Hurricane Rita. For now, this is the Bott's weekend getaway. He and his wife plan to build a house and retire here.
There's a lot of people that have written it off.
Bott refuses to write off Holly Beach, which is creeping back to life. And the state isn't either. It recently packed $45 million worth of new sand onto the beach, dredged from offshore. Some of these spots have been surrendering 45 or 60 feet to the Gulf of Mexico each year. But there's a lot more at stake here than just some sandy beach. Holly Beach is the proverbial first line of defense. Lose the beach, guarantee a domino effect of lost marsh, shredded ridges, and an invasion of saltwater.
We can protect it for millions, or we'll have to rebuild it for billions.
At the Rockefeller State Wildlife Refuge,
some of the biggest issues we're dealing with here at Rockefeller are the coastal concerns.
Program Manager Scooter Trosclair fights the sea.
If I was to walk anywhere else along this beach, I'd probably sink up to my knees.
The beach here is less fine, more of a shell hash.
You see how it just moves with every wave.
As the sand washes back, it kills the vegetation. Trosclair shows us a demonstration project aimed at protecting the shoreline, a series of breakwaters to cut down the wave action.
You can see there's no vegetation behind this one.
6 years later, this one failed miserably. Under their own weight, the rocks sank. But just a half a mile away, they wrapped the heavy rocks around a lighter material inside. The soil stabilized, land began to build.
And you can see where it was just a mud flat. And now you're seeing buildup.
Trosclair has been trying to pry $28 million from a federal and state task force to build roughly 4 miles of the successful breakwaters.
It's a lot of money, but we look at the benefits on the other side of the amount of land that we'll be protecting.
In southwest coastal parishes, there's a general sense of being left out of the mix as billions flowed to southeast Louisiana. One Beef, a Corps of Engineers draft report that includes nearly $1 billion in coastal projects for the Chenier Plain, but no levees.
And they're going to put this study out and basically tell us that we get nothing. And go back home.
The Corps finds the benefits of levees for communities didn't justify the costs.
Whereas putting in one system that protected everybody came at a high expense.
Even if the Corps had scored some projects a bit higher, today's tight budgets make it hard to land funding.
That's the thing we kind of drive for. What's the thing that's most likely to result in something actually being acted on?
Answering those frustrations, state lawmakers have created a new coastal authority for Calcasieu, Cameron, and Vermilion parishes, a squeaky wheel to push for projects.
Well, the Southwest Coast up to this point has not had a voice at the table for the state coastal protection.
Back on Holly Beach, Mike Bott plans to start construction of his new home in coming months.
Right after hurricane season. We're going to try to do it a little smarter.
Alaskan charter boat captain Dave Jenka strikes oil.
Looking pretty normal and clean on the very surface, but scrape it black, and there's that layer. See the droplets of crude right on really black stuff there.
Just as he showed us nearly 4 years ago, Jenka can still scrape away a few inches of soil on tiny islands around Prince William Sound and spot Exxon's oil from 1989 embedded in rocks and dirt.
So you realize it's not something that's going to go away very easily.
On March 24, 1989, the Exxon tanker Valdez ran aground, eventually belching 11 million gallons of crude into the Sound. The company and the government were caught flat-footed. Critical hours were lost as the oil spread over the waters and along the coastline.
You just don't like this kind of thing.
R.J. Kopchak was a commercial fisherman until the spill changed his life forever.
Yes, it looks like something you'd want to put on your ice cream sundae, doesn't it? It certainly is not compatible, however, with living things in delicate tissue. Just doesn't work.
Despite the obvious comparisons, in many ways the Exxon spill couldn't be more different than BP's 2010 rig blowout in the Gulf. As different as fire and ice. One involved transportation, the other oil and gas under enormous pressure gushing to the surface. But the two events strike similar chords when it comes to the human toll. Especially so in small fishing towns like Cordova, Alaska, where Exxon left a massive dead zone.
Cordova used to wake up from a long winter's nap in mid-March. And that was when we began to get ready for the herring fisheries.
A federal court awarded Exxon's victims $5 billion in damages. After a 20-year court fight, the U.S. Supreme Court shaved that judgment by about 90%.
The money and the law won out over the earth and the native people.
Along the Gulf Coast, controversy still rages over compensation. Critics who argue the claims process BP agreed to was slow to pay. The company claiming people who were in no way victims took advantage of a court settlement. Nevertheless, billions of dollars poured into the Gulf Coast, in part to avoid a repeat of Alaska. Workers in Cordova's canneries, shut down by that spill, got $900.
I was looking the other day for a guy. We got a big check, and I know we haven't paid him before. 6 cents. That's all he's getting. 6 cents.
You got a check made out to somebody.
For 6 cents.
What did he do?
Well, I haven't found him yet.
The people of Cordova saw the Gulf spill through the prism of their own experience. It left them bitter.
But I don't think that the final settlement checks ever compensated folks for the loss of community, the loss of lifestyle, the disruption that lasted a decade.
Today, Prince William Sound is once again a living postcard, striking vistas, wonders of nature. This baby on board represents recovery for the sea otter. But other species remain decimated. The herring population never recovered. No one knows why.
It's mixed with the sediments, sat in here, very thick, soaked down in.
In Alaska's deep freeze, the oil lingers, perhaps longer than will be the case in the heat and humidity of the Gulf Coast. But the parallels remain between America's two most notorious oil spills.
This isn't exactly the South Louisiana marsh, but
No.
maybe the closest thing you've got.
Right, right. This was one of the few spots that they considered a marsh. It even got nicknamed Death Marsh.
As the cleanup dragged on in the year after Valdez, state regulators decided to allow nature to take its course in places like Death Marsh. They figured 4 or 5 years would take care of the oil that Dave Janka is still finding today.
That's oil. That's oil.